All right, after we liberate Cuba, can we do Frisco next? Tom James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Oh, my God, he's already coming in hot. Yes, I am. All right, because these are kind of my top two stories and unusually related. We usually don't think of Cuba and Frisco in the same sentence. But let's start with the Cuba news, because this is big. This is something that, I predicted it, but I can't take a whole lot of credit because a lot of people saw this. You know, after the Venezuela regime was kicked, all of the oil that was supplying Cuba was dropped. Cuba was already in a crisis before that, and there had been plenty of statements dealing with that in the past. So now that there's an indictment, the acting attorney general, Todd Blanche, comes out, announces an indictment on Raul Castro. It's like, hang on a second. I remember there being an indictment on some guy. What was his name? Oh, yeah, Maduro. That's right. And then we just came in with the helicopters and like, oh, damn it, here come the Americans. Things started blowing up. Are we going to go snatch this guy? I think we're going to go snatch Raul Castro. You know, we make fun of guys who play video games like they're living in the fantasy world, not the real world. How real world is this? This is just an episode. This is like a mission on Call of Duty 4 or Modern Warfare 3 or whatever. What was the one where they had Jonah Hill doing the commercial? That was hilarious. This is a Call of Duty mission, is what this is. The Maduro raid, and then you can do the Raul Castro raid, and then you could do like the Iranian bombing their nuclear facility raid. By the way, I saw the Top Gun Maverick this weekend in the movie theater. They re-released both of them. You can go see both of them. The original one from 1986, because it's the 40-year anniversary. They have it at the IMAX, or at least at the IMAX in Bug Tussle means we just put it on the side of a barn and turn the stereo up real loud. But where they have real IMAXs, you can see the original one in IMAX right now. The plot of Top Gun Maverick is the Iranian nuclear strike from last year. It's like, you got to fly over this rogue regime. They're enriching uranium in this mountainous area. You've got to fly in and do a bombing and get out of there alive. Except, you know, in the movie, we didn't drop it from 70,000 feet. Tom Cruise had to drop it from about 4 feet above the ground. But that's what's going on. Anyway, so Todd Blanche comes out today, announces the indictment for Raul Castro. There's a whole bunch of cheering, and then after the cheering dies down, he gets to the meat and potatoes here on what's going on.
Mr. Castro and the others are charged with additional crimes as well, including destruction of aircraft and 4 individual counts of murder. The indictment was returned by a grand jury sitting in this district in Miami on April 23rd, 2026, and was unsealed today. For nearly 30 years, the families of 4 murdered Americans have waited for justice. On February, this is a story all too familiar. On February 24th, 1996, 2 civilian aircraft operated by Brothers to the Rescue were shot down over international waters by military aircraft from Cuba. 4 men were killed: Carlos Costa, Armando Alejandre Jr., Mario de la Peña, and Pablo Morales. They were unarmed civilians and were flying humanitarian missions for the rescue and protection of people fleeing oppression across the Florida Straits. As alleged in the indictment, Raul Castro and 5 co-defendants participated in a conspiracy that ended with Cuban military aircraft firing missiles at those civilian planes and killing 4 Americans. Those are the allegations returned by a federal grand jury. My message today is clear. The United States and President Trump does not and will not forget its citizens.
So it looks like Cuba is going to be the next to fall. And if you're looking at the chessboard here, Venezuela's been knocked off, that rogue regime. Look, on a long enough time scale, we'll know if it was the right decision. But the bad regime's gone for sure. The Ayatollah, the former Ayatollah, is gone. Time will tell if this guy's better. Similar situation in Venezuela. And now if the Castro monopoly on power is finally knocked out for the first time in Almost 70 years. You realize since what, 1959 was when the Castro brothers took over? So if that piece gets toppled here, 3 of the worst actors in the axis of evil on the planet will have been knocked out just in the second term of Donald Trump. That's what we're going for here. All of this is connected. We're not really mad at Iran in isolation. This isn't happening in a vacuum. We just need to know if we have the right guys that we're talking to. And here's something else you'll appreciate. This little clip here from J.D. Vance, where he's asked, to predict how Iran's going to react. And there's a moment of honesty. Because if you ask Donald Trump this same question, he's going to be like, yes, they're going to sign a deal. It's going to be the best deal. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. Believe me. They're dying to make a deal. They're begging me to make a deal. I'm going to get everything I want. They're not going to get anything. And and that's what he does. He just talks in hyperbole. That's okay. We're used to it. J.D. Vance is a little different. This is like the difference. Like Rush Limbaugh was never wrong, right? With half his brain tied behind his back, correct 99.8% of the time. And then there's people like me, like I'm flawed. I bleed. I'm wrong all the time. I'm a goof. I get all kinds of stuff wrong. Howard Stern is like that too. When he got divorced, he did all kinds of shows talking about how he feels like a loser. So it's just a different style. It's not right or wrong. I just want to point out how J.D. Vance is not the same as Trump, but I think it will serve him well when we're looking at the election in 2 years. Listen to this.
For Americans at home, because this has been going on for several weeks now. I think what people just want to know is, do you personally believe that the Iranians will come to a deal? Because we keep seeing this over and over again where they go back and forth.
So do I personally believe it? The honest answer is, how could I possibly know, right? And you negotiate with people, and sometimes you feel like you're making progress, and sometimes you feel like you're not making progress. What I think is that the Iranians want to make a deal. What I think is that the Iranians recognize that a nuclear weapon is the red line for the United States of America, that they've internalized that. But we're not going to know until we're actually putting pen to paper on signing a deal. We've had a lot of drafts, a lot of pieces of paper going back and forth, but I will not say with confidence that we're going to reach a deal until we're actually signing a negotiated settlement here. And I think that it's ultimately up to the Iranians whether they're willing to meet us, because I think we're certainly doing a good job and we're certainly negotiating in good faith. We're going to have to see what ultimately happens with them. I can't say with confidence because I don't know what's in the mind of the other side.
Now, you recognize how different that is, just from a personality, not from a policy or a statecraft standpoint, but from a personality standpoint, how different that is from Donald Trump. I think it's going to serve him well. Coming up next, though, I'm going to make the case that once, this whole Cuba thing is dissolved, we should make it the 51st state. Or really, we should make it either the 52nd or 53rd state, because I got some other ideas on that too. Stick around. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, hear me out. I think we should make Cuba the 51st state, or maybe the 52nd, 53rd, maybe even 54th state. I'm James Parker. This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. They're going to be all over this tomorrow from 11 to 2. You should check them out. But this isn't coming out of left field. I would like to just back up the car a little bit, slam the brakes, put it in reverse, do the elbow over the bench seat, and look backwards. Because we have had a few months build up to this moment. We have had a little bit of a back and forth. Let's go back to January of this year. This is Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel saying abajo imperialismo, which means down with imperialism. And he's talking about you.
Abajo el imperialismo. Abajo el imperialismo. Abajo el imperialismo.
Yeah, well, that's not going to end well, sir. And that's what Maduro said right before the helicopters came over the horizon with CCR blasting out. Why do I just assume they're playing Fortunate Son out of all the helicopters that are coming over the horizon about to drop off some quite angry military men to wreck shop? Don't we all assume now that these helicopters, they just have CCR. They have like an 8-track of this one CCR song on loop, and this is all they play. What do you think they're playing? Bad Bunny? So anyway, the next part in our trip through history, Trump has been speaking out about this more and more. Here's a couple of clips from March. This was March 8th. Trump is saying, after Venezuela, it looks like Cuba's next.
As we achieve a historic...
Oh, wait, I think this was after Iran, Cuba's next. So Venezuela, Iran, Cuba. He's been telling you this for months.
As we achieve a historic transformation in Venezuela, we're also looking forward to the great change that will soon be coming to Cuba. Cuba's at the end of the line. They're very much at the end of the line. They have no money. They have no oil. They have a bad philosophy. They have a bad regime that's been bad for a long time.
And then here he is later in March 16th.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it.
Now, I love this. And let me explain why I'm so excited about this. I feel like I'm the only person that's bothered by the fact that we haven't added a state in my entire life. You know, when my parents were born, we only had 48 states. We've added 2. In fact, we have added states to the United States for every generation of our entire existence until mine. And that pisses me off. And I believe in statecraft, just like in business. If you're not growing, you're dying. So no, I don't think we should have like a worldwide empire. But look, we could add Cuba. A lot of people want to add Puerto Rico. They're already part of this country. And one of the complaints is, yeah, well, they'll just send a Democrat senator and Democrat representatives to Congress. Okay, well, Cuba won't. That'll balance it out. How about we add Puerto Rico and Cuba at the same time? Because Cuba will definitely be Republican. They've already gone down the rabbit hole of socialism and learned the hard way. So they'll be on our side. Just can you just do all your business in English? That's all we ask. But why stop there? I haven't forgotten about Greenland. That's looking pretty good. There's been grumblings in the media from a separatist movement in Alberta, Canada. I would add them. They would probably vote red. Balance out Greenland. I don't know if they'd be blue or red, or there's only like 28 of them. But I've always been a big fan of adding territory to the United States. And I've always looked at a side eye, really kind of green-eyed, almost jealous of Canada. Look at all that. Y'all are the second biggest country as far as landmass goes, and there's only 40 million of you? Good Lord, that's how many people we have in Texas almost. Yeah, y'all aren't doing anything with that. Why not just give it to us? Come on, man. What about the Northwest Territories? That's not even a province. It's just territories. We'll buy it from you. We'll give you a bunch of, Molson Ice or something. Maple syrup. Actually, we'll send you some heaters is what we'll send you. We'll send you those little space heaters that your work gets when it gets cold and the heater goes out. But no, I like the idea of adding Cuba as a state. It would be a Republican state, which, I'm not too excited about that. Republicans are kind of disappointing. but it would balance out. I like the idea of adding states. I like the idea of adding territory. I hate the idea that we may have reached our maximum, because I think in history, if we don't take Canada at some point, historians are going to have like the biggest baffling questions of why not. You know, it's right up there. Like, why hasn't Austria ever joined Germany? They're the same people speaking the same language, same history, same. Why haven't we taken Canada? We could. So I like the idea. Do you like the idea of adding Cuba as a state? Because I think even our Democrat friends would be on board with it if we balanced it out with something. I never, ever want D.C. to be a state just because it was explicitly written into the Constitution like that. And people, you do not know better how to make a country than our founding fathers. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, after we liberate Cuba, can we liberate Frisco? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, homeowners. James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. There's bad storms all week. There's going to be more bad storms. In fact, yesterday, some of y'all got hail. Did you get hail at your house? Anytime you see ice falling out of the sky in chunks, that's bad news for your roof. That's how roofs get damaged and worn out. That's how even a roof that's only 5 to 10 years old can give you problems. So if you had any of that little ice, if you saw it accumulating on the side of the road, if you had any of that in your neighborhood this last week, you want to go to Blue Ribbon DFW, have John come out, get his ladder, jump on your roof, take some pictures, look around, make sure everything's okay, because that doesn't cost you anything. And it'll also do you a favor, because next time down the road in a few years when you do have a problem with your roof, you have a baseline of evidence and pictures from your inspection that you got in May of 2026. So that'll help you with the claims process in the future when you actually do need them. And if you do need them, that's probably one of the best things about them. Not only do you get a great roof, but they help you with that pain in the neck insurance company. So go to blueribbondfw.com. The battle against the Frisco Indians continues. I'm James Barker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. And, well, I know, good to see you, too. What are you, a big fan of the Frisco Indians? Sounds like a minor league baseball team, doesn't it? But there was a meeting last night, Frisco City Council, and at stake were a couple of Hindu temples and a mosque. So the permitting process was going to go down or be finalized, or a gavel was going to swing, whatever. And there's going to be public comment. So people were getting themselves hyped up, getting ready for this. A lot of people showing up. Here is Kelly TCK before the meeting, giving you a little preview.
I'm here today at the Frisco City Council meeting, and they're going to be voting to approve a new mosque being built and 2 new temples. So this is going to be a pretty controversial meeting. Basically, there's been an explosive growth of Indian immigrants in this city, and really just North Texas in general, and longtime residents are not happy about it. I can say that parts of North Texas are completely unrecognizable, and it needs to stop.
Okay, so generally speaking, I think positively of anyone who gets involved in civic activities like this. Your civic duty, making sure your governance is being watched over. For me, it's just being a responsible citizen. Love it. Now, my concern here is, while the issues you're bringing up are correct, none of this, or very little of this, can be solved with the Frisco City Council. Whether or not they get the permit to build their next Hindu temple or their next mosque has no bearing on whether or not that they came here, are here correctly, legally, within the spirit of the law, if they're following the laws while they're here, if they're assimilating. If the problem is too many people are coming here, well, then you don't go address the Frisco City Council to fix it. That's a federal issue. Frisco City Council doesn't control immigration from international countries. They control maybe immigration from Collin County, and then that's a joke. And then also there's a little bit of criticism that's valid here in the fact that some of these people are doing this just for their own aggrandizement. These people that are going around looking up H-1B visa fraud and knocking on doors and taking selfie videos and putting it online and doing these big grandstanding speeches in front of everyone, in front of the city council. Look at me, standing up for my country. There's something to be said about that. However, a little bit of narcissism is necessary for people to do that. A little bit of narcissism is necessary for me to do my job. So far be it for me to criticize people. You know, for most of Americans, your number one fear is public speaking. I mean, number 2 is death. I have some weird switch in my brain where not only am I not scared of public speaking, I love it. Well, you have to be a little messed up like that to have a radio show. I'm going to say something in this microphone and 108,000 people are going to be entertained enough that they don't turn the channel. You got to have a pretty big ego to do that. Well, you have to have a pretty big ego and narcissism and, attention-seeking sort of theatrical ham in you to do what these people are doing. That doesn't make them wrong. In fact, they can still do the community a great service and feed their need for attention at the same time. And I think they're doing it. Kaylee Campbell's doing it. Mark Palaciano's doing it. Sarah Gonzalez is absolutely killing it. We had Joel Timmie, a guy who claimed to be of premium Texas stock, a great-great-great-grandson of both Sam Houston and Davy Crockett. I don't know if that's possible, but he says so. I believe it. But here he was in the public speaking portion at the Frisco City Council meeting last night. Joel Timmie.
The question is for Texans, what does it mean to be Texan? This question is very important because as we build temples in this state, we are changing the layout and the structure and the fabric of this beautiful Texas state. So listen, this is not what we want. Christ is King. May God bless America and stay true to your roots. God bless you guys.
All right, but what's the Frisco City Council supposed to do about that? I mean, if there's anything illegal, you should be able to call it into the Frisco police and they'll go arrest them, turn them over to ICE and send them home. But if they're exploiting a very lame loophole and they're here on paper legally, There's absolutely zero Frisco can do about it. Joel, Timmy, all you people, take that ire and make sure the people in D.C. hear it. Make sure the Trump administration hears it. Make sure Ken Paxton's probably going to be your next senator. I hope he takes that message with him up to D.C. Here's Kaylee Campbell, who was on the show, I think 2 days ago or yesterday, addressing the Frisco Indian situation at the city council last night.
Good evening, council. I'm not here tonight to tell you what you should or should not do. However, it is important for the audience to understand why and how this decision came to be. Under Cheney's direction, this decision was made months ago, before it was ever brought before the Planning and Zoning Committee. So tonight we're going to talk about the why. The Hindu groups have met with city staff roughly 40 times and have made more than 160 revisions to their plans over the past 3 to 4 years. Meanwhile, the Muslim groups began construction on the mosque before any city approvals from City Council or the Planning and Zoning Committee. Steel and concrete have already been put in place without the proper approvals or permits. The concerns surrounding the mosque extend beyond disagreements with their messaging or underlying agenda. There are also practical concerns involving parking, traffic, and other disruptions.
All right, so that's Kaylee Campbell last night, Frisco City Council. Listen, coming up next, I'm going to talk about my solutions because I think a lot of people are misdiagnosing the problem. And one of the problems from their point of view would be the Constitution, because once they're here, we have no right to tell them what they can and can't do with their religious buildings. So the real solution coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, I've got the solution to the Frisco Indian situation. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Not that anybody's going to listen to me and implement it. But the Frisco Indian situation, if you're just joining us and have never listened to talk radio before, 25 years ago, Frisco used to be 2% Indian origin. Now it's over a third Indian origin. And it's changing what used to be a small town dramatically. And it's quite suspicious that for all the jobs that we need from overseas, for all these H-1Bs, they all just happen to be from the same area. BS. This isn't a racially blind exercise we're observing here. You can't just flip a coin and have it land on India every time. So they're abusing our system, coming here in droves, and then not assimilating. And what looks to me like the definition of colonizing, when you come here and you try and reset up the society you came from in little pockets in someone else's foreign land. Isn't that what that is? Isn't that colonizing? So here's what you do. Number one, all those H-1B visas, they get revoked immediately. Now, that's not going to be very popular because there's a lot of big businesses who love having that cheap labor because it helps them be profitable. A lot of rich people are going to suffer because they're going to have to hire your sons and daughters at a higher wage with better benefits to go fill those positions once the Indians go away. In the H-1B program, and that's it. It really is that simple. Cancel all the H-1Bs, deport all the people, and then turn off the spigot. Now, James, why do you want to do that? Why do you hate so much? I don't hate groups of people just because they look different than me or just because they have a different religion than me or a different belief system or different language or different music. The part about me that I find abrasive of some of these other cultures from the other side of the planet, it's not the music, not the food, not even the smell. It's the rape.
You rape girls?
Some of us, yeah, some of us.
Do you know how many times you've done that? How many times have you raped girls?
I did it maybe 2 or 3 times.
I did it once. I did it 4 times. One of us pretends as if he's a nice guy. He wants to get her number or something, and you would grab her and say, "Hey, shut up."
Surely she shouts, no?
No, we tell him that.
We make sure that she doesn't.
I mean, do you understand how bad this is? Not only do these people exist, they are comfortable giving you rape tutorials on camera in the street. That is how assimilated their culture is to raping your wife, your daughter, your granddaughters. And then on top of that, if the same thing that's been going on in the UK happens over here, the authorities are going to cover for them. They cover for them as it is already. The media lies and slanders you and your culture and your religion and your history every single day. Well, we've already seen it in the UK, and they're having an explosion right now. That's what the big protest was this weekend. Here's Jordan Peterson talking about the UK rape gangs. If you're not caught up on this is what's in store for Frisco.
There's 2 causes. The first cause is the disdain of the British elite for the working class, which we've had a fair share of also in the US, especially from the radical left. But the Brits have a pretty entrenched class system, and white working class people are really at the bottom of the hierarchy. And so people who've spoken up from the white working class have been ignored, and the girls pilloried as sluts, essentially. And then it's a complete bloody catastrophe for the open immigration policy, because it is these crimes are occurring at the hands of a very specific population and for very specific reasons, and no one wants to talk about those reasons at all, and no wonder. So it's just a nightmare for the political class. It doesn't really matter whether they're conservatives or progressives, let's say, because the multicultural experiment in this particular case went as badly wrong as you could possibly imagine, or like I can tell, you've been reading about this today, and you can see it you can hear it in your voice. It's so bad, you just can't imagine it.
Yeah, well, we can kind of imagine it here because it was just last year that an illegal immigrant who had been ordered to deport, and then some bleeding heart judge stopped the deportation of this repeat violent criminal back to Cuba. and he ended up sawing off another immigrant's head over here in East Dallas. And you saw the media, the police, the establishment, politicians try to hide from you the fact that he was an illegal immigrant. They were covering for him. He's sawing off heads, and they're still covering for him and not telling you the truth.
Well, they didn't just ignore it. It's worse than that. They ignored it and tortured the people who brought it to light.
Yes.
Like, it's one thing to ignore it. It's another thing to identify the people who are bringing it to light, including the victims, and then to make their life a living hell and to gaslight them and tell them that, well, they brought it on themselves, let's say in the case of the victims, or they're just like neo-Nazis or racists for daring to point to the actual perpetrators.
Let me give you a recent, this isn't, I didn't go dig this out of the history 20 years ago. This is a recent report from the BBC where they're in Afghanistan at an open air market where slaves are being sold. Oh, I'm sorry. Fathers are selling their young daughters into sex slavery. They are selling their own daughters into sex slavery. And the BBC looks at these guys that are creating sex slaves out of little 5-year-old girls and not saying, wow, that's pretty evil. They're saying, oh, poor guys, they must really have it hard.
Stark picture of the struggle for survival that begins at dawn every day. Hundreds of men, young and old, gather at a local square to find work. This is Ghor in central Afghanistan. Some here are just boys. Zaul Lahak is 16. He walked for 2 days from his village to get here. In 6 weeks, Muhammad Gul has found no work. Jumma Khan says he fears his children will die of hunger. They're trying to live with dignity, but are being broken by hunger.
Yeah, now you get condemned because somebody who looks similar to you was in the slave trade 160 years ago in America. But these people aren't condemned right now for participating in slavery. They get a pass from the BBC. Oh, look at them. They're having such a hard time. Who can blame them for this terrible situation that they were just born into? 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Jeff Bezos answers the AOC claim that no one can earn $1 billion. And he does a really good job. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Jeff Bezos gives AOC an economics lesson. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I know, good to see you too. Good to see you too. Well, look, it was about a week or so ago, AOC told Jeff Bezos, well, she didn't tell Jeff Bezos. She was on someone else's podcast saying no one earned $1 billion. There's no such thing. Well, it's economic illiteracy, and it doesn't make me angry. Just an opportunity to not only teach her, but teach other people who think like her, or teach people who think like me, and they're just not sure why. But first, we go to John in Denton. You're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, John.
Hey, John, James. So your H-1B, I love your stories about all that, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. After that, they get an I-140, which allows them a couple years later to get a green card. Which
hang on. Let's catch everyone up. In the previous hour, I was talking about the Frisco Indians and the obvious abuse of our immigration system by people of Indian descent and Pakistani descent or whatever that's going on. There's a big meeting in Frisco last night. So you're talking about that. Yeah, rightfully so. The H-1B is just the first stepping stone into them staying here permanently. And, a lot of people go and gripe at the Frisco City Council, and they make it, I guess that makes them feel better. But that's not going to solve anything. The solution for there is going to be a D.C. policy, not Frisco, not anywhere in Collin County, not in Austin. And if international immigration isn't affected by Frisco City Council, I hope they don't just stop there. Is kind of my point, John.
Right. Yeah, there needs to be a limit, because what they'll do is they'll start an alleged IT company in their
stop it. There doesn't need to be a limit. There's limits now. They already found the way around them. They already found the workaround. We can't do it. Just like we can't do home health care. We can't do daycare through the federal government anymore. There was a limit on it then. These people can't keep control of it. And when you put anything in the hands of the government and you remove the profit incentive, the incentive to stop abuse goes away as well. So no, I don't even want a limit. I want no H-1B program, period, point blank, end of story.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. I guess you took my fire away then.
All right. Well, no, I enjoyed the call. Thank you for listening. And you're not wrong. I wish I knew what you know. So you know about the process. What was that next one past the H-1B? There's like a TPS report or a cover sheet or something.
Yeah, they get an I-140. They'll go to the Department of Labor and they'll say, I can't get an American to work this job for me, but I got this person over here in India who I can bring here and fulfill this position. And then the Department of Labor is a rubber stamp. They'll say, yeah, great. Yeah, just bring them on over. And then
there's no safeguard on it. It's like the Leering Center. It's like, yes, we're handing out food and daycare for all these children. And the government's like, okay, well, here's a bag of money. All right. Good stuff. All right. Thank you, John up in Denton. I appreciate you calling in. All right. Let's commence here with today's economics lesson. We go back to May 6th of this year. AOC's on some podcast. She says this.
There's a certain level of wealth and accumulation that is unearned, right? You can't earn $1 billion.
That's right.
You just can't earn that.
That's exactly correct.
You can get market power, you can break rules, you can do all sorts of things. You can abuse labor laws, you can pay people less than what they're worth, but you can't earn that, right?
That's right.
And so you have to create a myth that since you didn't earn that, you have to create a myth of earning it.
Well, it's frustrating because that's economic illiteracy to the highest degree. This is someone who hasn't even gotten past the first semester of a real economics understanding. She's been taught fake economics, and I'm kind of salty about this because even though I went to Bug Tussle Baptist University and I took economics classes, I was taught Keynesian economics as if that was just economics, as if there wasn't other schools of thought or different ways to explain economic phenomenon. And I was kind of ticked off. I was like, I'm not a Keynesian economist at all. I'm an Austrian economist. None of this other stuff makes sense. I was taught wrong. Do you even know what kind of economist you are? Do you know? Are you? Because I asked a guy, some guy who sends me social media messages and argues with me. I was like, and I asked him the same thing. Do you even know what kind of economist you are? Like, I'm an Austrian economist. What school of economics do you subscribe to? And he's like, I'm a capitalist. I'm like, oh, really? You want to get rid of public schools? And then I could hear him Googling it through the Instagram message. It's like, oh, well, I mean, I guess I'm not like a capitalist, like as far as economics goes. I'm kind of, yeah, you don't even know. You haven't even looked it up. So of course you can earn $1 billion. You could maybe make the case that if you're a farmer, you could never grow $1 billion worth of crops. But in the information age, when a product is infinitely scalable, $1 billion is a given for somebody. Do y'all know the terms I'm using? Do you know what infinitely scalable, like Garrett, do you know what infinitely scalable means in economics? You can just nod yes or no. You don't have to type anything in. Just yes or no. Kinda. All right. So like before the internet, if I wanted to sell 1 million records, maybe I'm Elvis's producer, I have to actually stamp out 1 million pieces of vinyl, ship them to all of these stores all across the continent, all across the globe, and someone has to sell them. Now, if I make 1 million, then I can only sell 1 million. That's as high as I can scale. And I can't make infinity albums because we don't have that many resources. We'll run out of vinyl at some point. We'll run out of the guys to stamp it. We'll run out of the people to buy it. We'll run out of the record players to put it in. However, in the information age, if I take blue suede shoes and I put it on YouTube, how many people can listen to it? All of them. It's infinitely scalable. It will never run out. It will never be scarce. It will always be there. And if all 8 billion people on Earth want to listen to blue suede shoes, they can log in. I mean, it might crash the server if they did it all at one time. But we have songs with over 1 billion views. That wasn't even possible until the information age. So of course someone can earn $1 billion. But when we have a company like Walmart, and Walmart, I am such a big fan, you have no idea. No company, no human endeavor has raised the standard of living for the ordinary person more than Walmart. You may be able to make a case for the Catholic Church, but Walmart probably beats them too. No one has alleviated more suffering, created more prosperity, and elevated the common man more than that endeavor. If you're going to have a grocery store chain that is that big and that scaled, what do you think the CEO is going to make? What do you think the CEO deserves? And before I get to Jeff Bezos' retort, let me add a little bit more context. About 40 seconds later, after that first soundbite in AOC, she continued with a little economic silliness that I want to address as well.
The American Revolution was against the billionaires of their time. And we are declaring independence from such an extreme marriage of wealth and power and the state.
Yeah, so you know that's not true either. They were going against the government. They were going against the people that were coming to take their guns away. And what were we doing? We were shooting at them with cannons. All right, so now we go to Jeff Bezos, who was on, I saw this on CNBC this morning. I assume it was from this morning. I just want to apologize in advance because the microphones are so terrible. CNBC, I know you can afford it. You're the money channel. But I broke it up into two parts here. First, he was asked directly about AOC, and this was his reply, and it's perfect.
AOC recently said in a podcast, I'm just curious how you think about this, says there's a certain level of wealth and accumulation that is unearned, she says. You can't earn $1 billion. Just can't earn that, she says. You can get market power, you can break rules, you can abuse labor laws, you can pay people less than what they're worth, but you can't earn that. Yeah. You, by the way, you've earned extraordinary amount of money. You employ largest employer, if not one of them, in the whole country. When you read that, what do you think?
Well, it's not correct on its face. Let me give you a simple example. Let's say you start a burger joint and you have 10 employees and you make a little bit of money, right? Until you have this one outlet. And by the way, these are the most delicious burgers in the world. People love your burgers, Andrew. And so then you open a second outlet, right? And now you're making a little bit more money and you have 20 employees and you open a third outlet. By the time you've opened 1,000 outlets, you are a billionaire.
Right.
And by the way, this is a real life story. It happens all the time. It's In-N-Out Burger. It's, Raising Cane's chicken. At what point did that money all of a sudden become unethical? Or it didn't. There was one outlet, and then there were two, and then there were three. What you're doing, the way you make $1 billion or $100 million or $10 million or anything, is you create a service that people love. And if millions of people choose your service, you're going to end up with $1 billion.
Right.
And you can, just try it with a chicken franchise.
The part he probably doesn't have time to get into, but is just as valuable, is the other side of that argument. Let's say we enact the economic preferences of AOC and Bernie Sanders, who say they don't want any more billionaires. So when you enact socialism, when you enact the leftist economic policies that are shared by AOC and Bernie Sanders, what happens? Do you get rid of billionaires? Do you get more billionaires? Do you get fewer billionaires? Did you know that when the Soviet Union fell in 1992, Moscow had the most billionaires per capita? Now, how is that? In the first Marxist experiment in governance, for 70 years, they got to practice their, air quote, superior economic policy, their more equal and fair economic preferences. And what did they do? They created the highest concentration of billionaires, contrasting with the lower lifestyle of the peasant class. Isn't that amazing? When Hugo Chavez died, he was the only billionaire left in Venezuela. Now there's more because the people that inherited his estate, his wife, and he's got some kiddos. So the Chavez heirs were the only billionaires in Venezuela. Now it's the Chavez heirs and the Maduros that didn't get arrested and sit back. It's hilarious. Yes, we don't want any billionaires, so we're going to take over and then we'll be the only billionaires. So yeah, you think Chavez earned that $1 billion? You think Maduro earned that $1 billion, or was it stolen? Do you think all the oligarchs in Moscow in 1992 when the Soviet Union fell, did they earn those? No. See, if you're in socialism, that's when billionaires are allowed to steal and grift the people. Not in capitalism. Elon Musk didn't steal his money. Taylor Swift didn't steal her money. Michael Jordan didn't steal his money. But this other part, the focus on, well, you shouldn't be spending all this money and just rolling it back in your company and doing all solemn investments. You need to make investments in the community. No, investments in your company that is providing a good or a service to the community is the same as an investment in that community.
If I do my job right, the value to society and civilization from my for-profit companies will be much, much larger, than the good that I do with my charitable giving. And I think this is an important point to make, because people forget, or they sometimes don't see, that when you create something like Amazon and you're saving, I get letters from new mothers all the time that say, like, I have no idea what I would be doing right now if I didn't have Amazon. Thank you.
Right, and that's the real service you do to your community, is your business. Stop talking about business like it's some kind of dirty thing. Oh, you're just out there to make money. You're damn right I'm out here to make money. That's what we're all doing. Stop acting like it's a bad thing. Stop acting like you're some sort of superior person. Look, only a trust fund baby would be like, ew, all you care about is money. That's what we're all doing. You think the guys on the Dallas Cowboys really care about that star on their helmet? You think they're really out there busting their butts right now, squatting 600 pounds 20 times this afternoon, so you feel good about your home team? No, they're doing it for the money. We're all doing it for the money. Train is out there doing an awesome newscast for the money. I'm doing a above average radio show for the money. The guy that's fixing your car doesn't feel some sort of emotional attachment to your Mercury. He's doing it for money. I'm tired of people pretending like that's a bad thing. Let's get to Milton Friedman with the ultimate capitalism defense here against Phil Donahue.
When you see around the globe the maldistribution of wealth, the desperate plight of millions of people in underdeveloped countries, when you see so few haves and so many have-nots, when you see the greed and the concentration of power within, did you ever have a moment of doubt about capitalism and whether greed's a good idea to run on?
Well, first of all, tell me, is there some society you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. In the only cases in which the masses have escaped from the kind of grinding poverty you're talking about, the only cases in recorded history are where they have had capitalism and largely free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worst off, it's exactly in the kinds of societies that depart from that. So that the record of history is absolutely crystal clear, that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free enterprise system.
But it seems to reward not virtue as much as ability to manipulate the system.
And what does reward virtue? You think a communist commissar rewards virtue? You think a Hitler rewards virtue? You think, excuse me, if you'll pardon me, do you think American presidents reward virtue? Do they choose their appointees on the basis of the virtue of the people appointed or on the basis of their political clout? Is it really true that political self-interest is nobler somehow than economic self-interest? You know, I think you're taking a lot of things for granted. And just tell me where in the world you find these angels who are going to organize society for us. Well, I don't even trust you to do that.
To the phones. It's Rodney in Mesquite. You're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, how you doing? I appreciate you a lot. I listen to you pretty much every day as I'm driving around, and I just wanted to say that the Amazon guy, I don't have anything against companies making money, but Amazon laid off 10,000 mid-management workers this year, and yet I found out the other day that they had applied for 10,000 H-1B visas as well. So you can't have it both ways. That H-1B thing has got to be eliminated. Then the business can go on as it was meant to be.
Well, that's another reason to get rid of the H-1B visa system. I'm certainly on board with that. And not that I enjoy the fact that he's doing it, but if we're going to have H-1B visa abuse, to not participate in it would be to lose the game. And I try to explain this to there was someone who was going back and forth with me on Facebook on Monday, and I was trying to explain that, like, if we were playing the NFL, if you're the head coach of the Cowboys, Rodney, and all of a sudden you found out that the refs aren't going to call offsides anymore, you'd be crazy to not be offsides on every play. Just jump the snap count. Just go ahead and be in their backfield, hitting their quarterback before the ball's even snapped, and keep just keep doing that until the rules change. But don't be the sucker who's sitting around following the rules that as they should exist when they're not being enforced, and your competition is going to roll you if that happens. So Jeff Bezos is in a terrible position that if we are going to have H-1B abuse, then he goes out of business if he doesn't participate in that abuse.
Right. Well, I would agree with you. We need to rein this in from the federal level. They're the ones who instituted it in the first place, and it's costing Americans jobs.
Yeah, Rodney, can you talk to a senator or two for me?
I'll definitely send it to them.
All right. Appreciate it, sir. Let me go to another call here. Rodney's great. This is Eric in Arlington. You're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Eric.
Hello. I heard you just a little bit ago talking about how they were wanting to make money. All these people who are complaining about this, like AOC, for instance, Pelosi, what are they doing with these illegal trades they're doing? they're making money.
Oh yeah. I see what you're saying there. Right. If making money so bad you didn't earn that, well they're making a whole lot of money they didn't earn off their inside information. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, sir.
Solid point. Great point. Thank you, Eric in Arlington. Appreciate it. And I see Elon Musk haters out there say, yeah, well, Elon Musk made most of his money through tax subsidies. He made a lot of it, like SpaceX. Most of that's government contracts. But if government's going to be handing out money like that, I'd rather go to Elon Musk than another NASA because he's been literally 1,000 times more efficient. The cost to put a kilogram up in orbit has gone down by like 98% or something per kilogram. It's ridiculously awesome. But I give him credit because sure, a lot of Tesla's early days were supported by the tax incentives around electric cars. But you could also say that about a ton of other electric car endeavors that are no longer with us. You know, the Smith vehicles, the Leaf, all the other ones that have gone out of business, Lordstown. Remember all these? No, you don't. Because they all had access to the exact same incentives and their electric car companies went into the dirt within a matter of a couple of years. Tesla's the only one that's turning around. And it's like the number one selling car in California right now. Tesla model whatever. All right, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I think a good point was made over here from our friend in Mesquite. Fix the H-1B visa system, and then you do fix some of the problems that you have with Amazon, that you do have with billionaires, and that you do have with Frisco Indians. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We're in the middle of an economics lesson that also kind of seems to be underpinned by a little bit by the H-1B discussion, which I don't mind. We need to keep bringing that up until that is solved, because that would think about how many issues would be resolved if we would solve that H-1B visa thing. Because did you know the unemployment rate for Americans with a computer science degree is higher than those without? Like, if you just took all of the American population and averaged it out, people with degrees, people without degrees, mouth breathers, geniuses, having a computer science degree used to be, hey, this is pretty solid. You're probably going to make a decent living. To you got H1 beat out like 5 years ago, and nobody cares about you anymore. This is Mike in Garland. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hello, James. I would like to say two very quick things. Number one, Democrats love billionaires. They just love their billionaires. That anti-billionaire rhetoric's ridiculous. As for the immigration, legal, illegal, the whole shebang, first of all, they're doing jobs Americans won't do is such a myth. I've been in construction all my life. I've done it all, everything, hard labor, all that. And the whole problem in America is we have let welfare get on steroids. So, yeah, no one's going to work when they can sit back and watch TV and get free money. And there are a bunch of healthy people getting free stuff. I mean, that is just out of control in America. And
now,
that's
Mike,
a huge problem.
Now, Mike, I hear you people say that a lot, and I don't know where you are specifically on this, so I'm going to ask for a little bit of nuance here. Because I came to that conclusion a long time ago, and I've tried to grapple with, well, how do we fix it? How do we fix it? How do we fix it? I'm beyond fixing it. I think we should get rid of all charitable programs through government. I mean, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, food stamps, daycare, home health care, the Social Security, all of it. Just get rid of all social programs. Are you with me on that, Mike?
I would say quite a bit with you. You know, there's
except for
a lot to debate there, but well, except for you just threw 10 seconds worth of stuff at me. You know, it's something to think about. But oh yeah, all the child care, free this, free that, everything's government paid for. My mama raised 4 kids by herself. Cousins would babysit, whatever. Yeah, that child care stuff, that's got to be $200-300 a week per child. I don't know how much it costs, but yeah, this is all getting out of control. But I'll put it to you this way. Here's what really bugs me. Like I know of I watch crime videos. So I watch when the police interrogate criminals and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah?
So this cop is interrogating this guy. He is healthy enough to rob a store, shoot the clerk, run home and hide, but he is collecting $800 a month SSI, which means disability.
Right.
How does that happen? And I know that this is not an isolated case. I mean, I see a lot of people just around where I live that are not working, and they're healthy enough to get around. How do they pay a $1,200 a month apartment?
So Mike, I've seen this kind of secondhand. This guy I used to do a show with, a radio partner. His sister's was a crackhead. I think she's clean now. But yeah, she got SSI money and she got Section 8, and all we did was support her crack habit. You're absolutely right, and it's to the tune of billions. The Somalis aren't the only ones who figured out how to rig the system, people. You are getting robbed blind. We have a deficit for nothing. You are experiencing 3.8% inflation, a 3.8% pay cut right now for fraud, for nothing. All right, thank you, Mike and Garland. And, Mike and Garland's original point, so spot on, but you probably haven't heard it. When he says they say they don't like billionaires, they just like their billionaires. Most billionaires are on Team Blue. You understand that? Let's go through the top list here. Because the number one richest guy in the country, Elon Musk, everybody knows that. And you're like, well, see, told you. They're all on Team Red. Elon Musk was on Team Blue for his entire life until about 5 months ago. And I'm exaggerating. It was 6 years ago. But he's a lifelong Democrat. Number 2, Larry Ellison, lifelong Democrat. Mark Zuckerberg, lifelong Democrat. Jeff Bezos, lifelong Democrat. Has a newspaper that is one of the most strident Team Blue propaganda outlets possible. Larry Page and Sergey Brin, those are the guys who founded Google, both overwhelmingly lefties. Steve Ballmer, one of the guys that ran Microsoft for a long time, kind of lefty, but I've seen him give a lot of donations or whatever both ways. The next one is Jensen Wang. Don't know him. Next one, Warren Buffett, Democrat. Michael Dell, Democrat. And then you get into the Waltons, pretty much Democrat. Michael Bloomberg, the most liberal Republican you've ever seen in your whole life, gives almost all of his money to Democrats. And then Bill Gates, lefty. Alice Walton, lefty. And then you go into the Koch brothers, libertarians. So yeah, out of the top 15 there, how many of them were Republicans? Let's see, you've got Elon Musk, who was a lifelong Democrat, and that's about it. Well, there you go. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next on The James Show, either bring out the aliens or stop talking about the UFOs, because I'm kind of getting sick of it. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Dude, bring out the alien or shut up. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We had the release of the UFO files, and I'm not one of the guys that went through it with a fine-tooth comb, doing all kinds of database searches and doing Python queries and whatnot. I was just going to wait for the other people who are more enthusiastic about UFOs to do it for me, and then I go back afterwards and I go dig through their research, and they didn't find... Look, it's disappointing because we have evidence here where the governments are saying we're not saying that there's not aliens. We're just saying that there's some observable phenomenons that didn't come from human technology. So this real sort of stutter step rollout of this has everybody's antenna going off, and we're all to the point, just admit it, there's damn aliens. And I get it. You don't want to tell us. You probably want to reverse engineer as much of their technology as you can before you tell the outside world so you can beat the Russians to it or the Chinese or whatever. But just tell us. I'm sick of being held hostage over this rain barrel because they've been showing videos. And that's the most compelling part of the files that were released are these videos of these orbs flying around in a manner that can't be human technology. It could be a cartoon. It could be CGI. It could be fake. I don't know. But if that's real, if that's a real camera shooting a real object, then that's probably an alien. Neil deGrasse Tyson, a guy who I respect on cosmology issues, not on politics, but on cosmology issues, Neil deGrasse Tyson says the most true thing ever. Either bring out the aliens or shut up.
Fine. If that's where we are, all I'm going to ask is, where's the alien?
So that's my question
is
to
it
you.
too much to ask that if you've got him in the back shed, just bring out the alien? Then we would all transition from asking one another, do you believe in aliens, to, well, yeah, of course, the alien's there.
Well, you
right?
wrote the book.
People don't say, do you believe
You wrote the book. You're an astrophysicist. What do you think? Are they here or have they been among us?
Whatever are the claims, I'm saying, let's assume they're all true. But just start with that assumption. If it's all true, they ought to be able to bring out the alien.
Got it.
That's right. Bring out the aliens. I want to meet them. I want to see who they are. Because I am a guy who, I don't think we've met aliens, but I'm really interested in the stories from people who say they have met aliens, these people who say they've been abducted. I have a friend who thinks he was abducted by a UFO. Swears. He's like, I know you think I'm crazy. My mom was there. I asked his mom, Marianne, he's abducted. She's like, I'm not going to say that he was or wasn't, but I will say what he saw, I can confirm. It's like, oh my God. There's guys that have written entire books about it, done interviews. Who was the guy that had the tall whites? Remember that guy? I don't know if you've seen this floating around the internet, but a guy who, he was in the military and he did a few years at some top secret compound in Mexico or New Mexico. And it was a stop off point, almost like a gas station where some of these visitors would come and stay for a while. And they looked Nordic. He said they looked very human, except they were kind of very pale and they all had blonde hair and they're all about 7 feet tall. It's like, you got tall, blonde, 7 foot Nordic looking aliens. Can he block? Can we put him on the offensive line? What about our defensive line sucks? Can they play linebacker? We need a good Sam or a Will thrown in there. Can we get, we'll make some custom pads. We'll fit it on there. We'll get a giant football helmet to fit their big dumb egg head. We'll even give them a bigger star. It'll be cool. Because look, we're not doing so good against the Eagles without him. We'll try it out. Plus, Dak Prescott. Look, he's getting a little old. You got a 7 foot quarterback. They can see over the line. Imagine having a 7 foot tall Nordic alien tight end. You know, he can just chip the linebacker on his way out. You throw him a Hail Mary, he's gonna catch it. So yeah, I like that. I like the bring out the alien already or shut up. And you feel extra frustration about this because this is what happens in other arenas of government, like the Epstein files. We're releasing a whole bunch of files. Look, if you're not sending somebody to jail, if no one's getting charged with the crime, then shut up. I don't need more databases to pour through. I don't need flight logs. I want handcuffs. I want trials. I want jumpsuits. I want shackles. I want there to be the trial on TV, or if we can't watch the video of it, I want the illustrators in there with their little chalk crayons drawn on a grocery bag. I don't know why did you ever notice that in all the courtroom illustrations? It looks like they're drawn on a grocery bag in chalk. So I want to see that. I want to see the grocery bag chalk drawings of Epstein clients. Until then, don't tell me about releasing files. I want to see the pictures of the aliens, or I want to see the aliens themselves. Just have them come out and stand next to JD Vance at the podium at the next press briefing. Wouldn't that be sweet? Get one of them tall dudes. We'll get him a wireless mic. He'll just hold it up there himself. Because if these dudes are really from another culture, wouldn't that be cool? Like if they can speak English and you can just ask them questions. I mean, first thing, wouldn't you be like, all right, number one, capitalism versus socialism. Am I right? See, like on your alien planet, do y'all do capitalism or socialism? Do y'all have universal health? Do y'all have gun control on your native planet, or laser beam control, or whatever you people are up to by now? Another fun story here. JD Vance tells a funny story about how Trump mocked his socks.
Denny, that is a nice blazer, man. Eric knows, if you wore that blazer into the Oval Office, the President of the United States would take special note of you. I will tell you that the President, he will note if you're wearing anything other than a solid navy blue jacket. And I learned this the hard way, not just that, but he likes more conservative dress. I learned this the hard way last year because it's tradition for the Vice President to welcome the Irish Prime Minister every St. Patrick's Day. So we do this big thing at our house at the Naval Observatory, and then we do a meeting at the Oval Office. And I decided to wear my shamrock socks to welcome the Irish Prime Minister. And we're sitting down in front of God and everybody and probably 100 TV cameras on a live press conference. And the president starts his remarks, and then he looks over and he says, "What is going on with those socks?" So I learned the hard way. Dress conservatively around the President of the United States.
Coming up next, there's going to be an interview released from Candace Owen of Hunter Biden. I'll tell you what I'm looking for coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hunter Biden's crawling out from under his rock. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Yeah, you better be excited for that one. This guy has given you such good entertainment over the last whatever years that we've been following this little crackhead around. It's America's favorite crackhead, Hunter Biden. Known from such great videos from the laptop as Hunter argues with the prostitute about the weight of his crack bag.
So I just weighed out the bag. It's 2.06.
2.07 without the bag.
So how long is
2 point.
Yeah, hey, come on, man. Are you trying to short the son of the president of the United States? Or I guess at this time, the son of the former vice president of the United States. Hey, if anything, put another little extra rock in there in his crack bag. You know, let's take one for the country. Do one for the boys. Love it. Absolutely love it. Now, we also like this because the last time he did an interview was, it wasn't that long ago. It was just back in November. So that was funny. If this is anything like the last one, this is going to be great. So the reason I'm talking about this today, Candace Owens, widely known influencer, has a new interview with Hunter Biden. She's already recorded it. She's chopped it up, put it into a hype video, and she's going to be releasing the whole thing tomorrow. So I don't know if I'm going to have this ready for you on tomorrow's show. You'll probably hear about it on Friday's show. But here's about the first 30 seconds of the Hunter Biden preview hype video that she released on Monday.
So the FBI has had physical possession of Hunter Biden's laptop, which reportedly contains, well, a lot of disturbing material.
You have access to that actual laptop.
A jury found Hunter Biden guilty of 3 felony gun charges.
I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Oopsies. He lied. He pardoned a crackhead. Hunter Biden. Welcome to the Candace Owens Show.
I've heard you call me a crackhead many times, and the truth of the matter is, I was a crackhead. The quote-unquote laptop, which, by the way, is you know what the laptop proved?
That you were a crackhead.
There you go.
Well, at least he admits it. Kind of hard not to. We all watch him smoke crack over and over. Waving guns around, prostitutes, probably taken across state lines. Some of them might have been underage. How many days in jail did the guy spend? Oh, yeah, that's right, 0. I am also super interested in this because the Hunter Biden laptop, that hoax should be one of the most important stories of the last 10 years. Because Hunter's only just the tip of the iceberg that's still floating above the water. In that story, the other 2/3 of the iceberg under the water are far more interesting. Number one, it is salacious. It is sexy that, you know, there's prostitutes and nudity and drugs and guns being waved around, and it makes him look really bad. Whatever. You don't really care about that. I don't really care about that. You know, there's great people out there who one of their kids has some addiction issues and it doesn't really reflect badly on the parents. But the real part of the Hunter laptop story that is historic in nature is in the emails, how they were describing how he's getting money from the Ukrainian gas firm. He's getting millions of dollars from Chinese oligarchs. He's getting money from some dude in Serbia, from some other oligarch in Kazakhstan, from some other multi-millionaire, maybe even a billionaire guy in Albania, and all these other shady deals where it was quite clear the man was selling influence to his dad. There were bribes. He was the conduit. He was the bag man. So that's the one thing that's underwater in this iceberg that's more important and interesting than the crack and the prostitutes and the guns. And the other part is the way there was the letter that was signed by 51, 54, whatever, current and former intelligence officials within the government, where they all said the Hunter Biden laptop was a Russian hoax. So we have what some people would call the deep state. I just like to point out that all of these bad actors, all these people that were lying on behalf of Team Blue. And then all the media that just turned around and parroted it like a Xerox machine. Like, okay, well, it's a Russian hoax. Why would the Russians do that hoax? What good would that do them to expose the conduit by which they were bribing the president of the United States of America? That makes no damn sense whatsoever. But they wrote the letter, they signed it, the media, thoughtlessly, with no critical thinking involved, turned around and passed along that lie to the American people, which no doubt had some influence on the election results in 2020. But it's not an indictment of Hunter Biden. This is an indictment of the Joe Biden crime syndicate, period, of the intelligence community, and of the media. This montage damns those three institutions.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
The vast majority of the intelligence people have come out and said there's no basis at all.
The allegations against Joe and Hunter Biden have no basis in fact.
Who do you think is behind this?
Well, the Russians would be my number one guess.
Obviously, Russia would be the chief suspect.
This information Rudy Giuliani is peddling very well could be connected to some sort of Russian government disinformation campaign.
CBS News has learned the FBI is now looking into whether the information found on the device may be part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
There are fears that what Giuliani is now pushing here in the United States could actually be part of Russia's latest and very massive disinformation campaign.
Another wonderful propaganda coup for Vladimir Putin, seeing the president of the United States holding up a newspaper promoting Kremlin propaganda.
Are these the same people that are telling you should be concerned about data centers, but not concerned about the Frisco Indians? Are these the same people? 800-288-9227. Coming up next on The James Show, we have more information on the shooting suspects from San Diego and the shooting spree that happened this weekend in Austin. There's a awesome heroic story. You'll get both of those updates coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Updates on a couple of recent shootings. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Let's start with the good news first. This is an amazing story. The guy's name is Justin Newland, or Newland, not with the D at the end, Newlin. Now, Justin does the opposite of what the government tells him. Justin does the opposite of what the media tells him. Justin is a hero. Be like Justin. There was the shooting spree that happened over the span of 2 days this weekend in Austin. 2 of the 3 guys were being chased by the cops. And the cops told the community, shelter in place. Remember that, shelter in place? What the hell? We have some dangerous criminals roaming the streets of your neighborhood. The cops don't ask for help. They ask you to cower. They ask you to get in your house, lock the door, and do the deadbolt, and get in the fetal position in the corner, and wait for Big Brother to come take care of you. Wait for the government to come save you, because you're incapable of saving yourself. Well, Justin did the opposite, damn it. Justin did what I hope you would do, what I hope I would do in the same situation. Oh, really? There's some dangerous people roaming my neighborhood? Well, I'm a grown-ass man. Let me go do something about it. Ended up being a hero. He tells his story. Justin Newland.
I was trying to enjoy a nap when I heard sirens and all that. My dog barking, got up, SWAT up and down the road. Went down to investigate. Come to find out they're looking for 3 fugitives, and they were believed to be in the area. I told them they can enter my grandma's house if they needed to. Nobody's there, along with barns and all that. They advised me to go back to the house and hang out. I kind of somewhat did. As I went home, I noticed my barn doors were open, which I did leave open, and I decided at that time to go ahead and clear them to make sure nobody was in there. Go to the front door of one, open it, nobody's in there. I go around to the side. I try to open the side door. I can't open it. I had to literally shove my way in, and when I did, there's 2 suspects sitting right there on each side of the door. I closed the door, and I'm trying to tell them, hey, y'all are cool, just stay right here. I'm trying to flag the sheriff to come up to my house at the same time I'm going to my truck to get my gun. Well, as I'm entering my truck to get my gun, I hear them running out behind me. I turned around, just out of nowhere, I just took off running after one of them, screaming at them, hey, stop, I'll shoot, I'll shoot. I eventually cornered him at the fence line and held him at gunpoint until state troopers and SWAT were able to capture him. And the other gentleman they caught right down the street.
Did they say anything to you when you walked into that?
No, they were scared. They just looked at me like, what do we do? And it was just fight or flight.
How old would you say those kids were?
Rough guess, 17 to 19, young kids. I mean, you can tell they've been running for a while because they were, sweating everywhere. You can tell something was going on.
When those officers came and got them, were they resisting the officers?
Oh, no. The guy did not resist one bit because I let it know from the get-go that if you move, I will shoot. So there was no moving or anything like that.
What made you want to spring into action like that? Was it just kind of instinct?
It's instinct. I live on there's a bunch of elderly people that live around me, and I kind of took it into my hand to be the protector around here, so that's what I do. It's nothing out of the ordinary for me to spring into action like this.
Sure. And when you heard about that shelter in place, were you at all worried? Were you all frightened, anything like
that? No, not at all. Not one bit. I'm more, what's going on? I want to be part of the action, so.
Damn right. Be like Justin Newland. There are 3 types of people in this world. There are sheep. There are wolves. And there are sheep dogs. It doesn't take much for you to be a sheepdog. Listen, if you're 91 years old and you're on a walker with a tank of oxygen behind you and you got the hose going around, we don't expect you to do anything. But the rest of you grown-ass men out there, if you're facing the same situation and you don't do what Justin Newland did, we're going to judge you. We're going to think less of you. And you should think less of yourself. Be a man, damn it. Don't buy into that toxic masculinity garbage that you see on TV. Don't let movies and Netflix tell you that you should be effeminate and soft and sweet. Don't let the news or the local police department tell you that you need to shelter in place. There's dangerous men outside. Well, you know what? I'm dangerous too. And so are you. And the only thing that stops bad men who are intent on committing violence is good men who are better at violence. So you are not a sheep. You are not a wolf. You are a sheep dog. Act like it. And I'm not just talking to men out there. That's the beautiful thing about guns. That's the beautiful thing about the Second Amendment. A 5'2", 128-pound woman could have gotten a similar result had she been armed. That's why we love guns. That's why we want to just hand guns out. That's why we want to encourage people to have guns. It levels the playing field to where if there's a bad guy out there with a gun, he's going to be surrounded at all times by good people with guns. Justin Newland, thank you for setting a good example. Thank you for showing us what a real man looks like, a real protector looks like. And for a lot of guys, you have this instinct in you. It just hasn't been exercised. It just hasn't been praised. It hasn't been glorified. You don't have a whole lot of good examples, and you don't have a whole lot of heroes like Justin Newland. You're not going to get Justin Newland reminders next year. You'll get the 3rd anniversary of the Uvalde shooting, or the 10th anniversary of the Parkland shooting, or the 15th anniversary of the Sandy Hook shooting. They'll always tell you when people with guns did bad things, when people that look like you did bad things. They will rename a street over here Gene Botham Boulevard because it's the rare case where a black person was murdered by a white person. They got to remind you of racial animus. But you won't be reminded of Justin Newland. You won't be reminded of when a gun was used to save the day, only when it's used to split us apart. It's a sick, sick world we live in. But I think we all can see through the BS. I think we can all see through the shelter in place mentality, the weak, effeminate, flaccid response. Get in your house, lock the door, and let the government officials come keep you safe? Hell no. That's not the American way. That's not the Texan way. That's not the manly way. I wish I had more time to spend on Justin Newland. I wish Justin Newland would be one of the guys that gets invited to the State of the Union. Justin Newland should be the guy that's throwing out the first pitch at the Rangers game. Justin Newland should be doing the coin flip on opening day for the Dallas Cowboys. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, updates on the San Diego mosque shooters. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You're going to get an update from Lawrence in Fort Worth after this San Diego mosque shooting update. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So there's a 75-page manifesto. And if you go to the news sources for Team Blue, they'll be happy to point out that, hey, did you see this guy's did you see the manifesto? Did you see that they were anti-LGBTQ? Did you see that they were anti-Islamic? Did you see that they were anti-Semitic? You go to Team Red Media and they'll be sure to point out all the things that make them look better. Did you see that they were against the Jews and blaming the Jews for everything? Did you see all this anti-capitalism stuff? Did you see the anti-Trump stuff? Did you see the anti-MAGA stuff? So I think this is going to be disappointing for everyone who likes to try and put the results of tragedies into a polarized box. But this looks like two people who are just psychopaths. Much like Columbine, just psychopaths. I didn't read the whole manifesto here, but San Diego Police Department yesterday were answering questions about it in a press conference.
There has been a manifesto that's been recovered. I would reiterate it's early on in the investigation. We are dedicating every resource the FBI has to conduct a thorough analysis of that manifesto to try to learn what led to this, but I think also more importantly, how can we stop future attacks? So I know there's a lot of questions related to this on the community. What I would just continue to reiterate is they didn't discriminate on who they hated. It covered a wide aspect of races and religions.
They're just psychopaths. You ever see American Psycho? They were Christian Bale in American Psycho, just a little bit younger, less affluent. Look, sometimes crazy people do crazy things and it doesn't fit in a political box. Sometimes there's horrible tragedies and you can't score points on them, and you don't have to worry about other people scoring points on you. Looks like these were just crazy people. Lawrence in Fort Worth, you're on the James Show. Hey, Lawrence.
Hey, James. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, brother, it's ironic that we even having this conversation, because in the real world, in order for evil to prevail, all good has to do is nothing. If you're a good person and you sit on your hands, evil will win out every time. And evil knows no color. Evil knows no sexual identity. It ain't about your race. It's about whether you are a good person or a bad person. And a lot of people going to come to that realization that you don't judge people on the color of their skin. You judge them on their behavior, how they treat other people, how they act. And my thing is this. When it comes to guns, hey, James, a lot of black people in Ohio on black radio, because I talk on black radio, a lot of them say I'm crazy. But, James, I'm number 12 out of 13. I come from a black dysfunctional family, Flint, Michigan, where crime and ghetto is the rule of order. James, if you don't walk out your house ready to deal with some fool or some evil person, you become a victim. You see, this is why I don't have no knife wounds, bullet holes in me. This is why my son is squared away, my daughter, my wife. My wife is running the union hall all this week. She's the acting president. She carries a gun on her. Even though some thug who has a criminal background put signs up on the union hall saying no guns allowed. The point that I'm making is this. Self-preservation is the first law of nature. If you don't want to take responsibility for your own well-being, your kids' well-being, then you go ahead and be a victim. There is nothing wrong with guns. You and I and every gun owner knows this. It ain't the gun that's jumping up, pulling the trigger by itself. It's people behind the gun.
Right.
And these Democrats, James,
yeah.
I mean, in all due honesty, brother, I can't listen to too much news because every time I see the Democrats, man, I'm getting pissed off. I'm getting more biased. I don't like nobody basically at this point who supports the Democratic brand, because the Democratic brand wants victims. They want the chaos to be the rule of order. I just had this conversation with a good brother, a friend of mine. Look at all the Democratic cities and look at the crime and the violence. Look at the cities that are red. They got minimal crime, minimal violence. And look at all these blacks who don't want to tell the truth. They trying to move to the Republican cities. It's time for us to just call it what it is. An idiot is an idiot. An a-hole is an a-hole. And a stagnated fool is a stagnated fool. And this is why I tend not to, I just sit back and chill now because, James, I carry a gun 24/7, carry multiple guns in some situations when I'm on the highway traveling, because you never know when you're going to meet the bad guy.
Right.
You got to be prepared to fight the bad guy on his terms.
All right, Lawrence,
I do not choose to be a victim. I don't want my family to be a victim. This is why my son does what he do. He's part of the solution.
Lawrence, I'm running out of time. I just want to give you a response here. Don't you love the juxtaposition of the same crowd of our neighbors who is indifferent to importing criminals in here, who wants criminals, once they are caught, to be released back out on the street, not go to jail or not have a bond or released on their own recognizance, are the same people that don't carry guns? Isn't that bizarre? They just invite criminals in. If they get caught, let's just release them back into the neighborhood. Why would you want to carry a gun? Well, because the judges you keep electing, the open border that you forced upon us, that's kind of why I need to carry a gun more so than previously. Thank you very much. The great Lawrence in Fort Worth. All right, I'm out of time for the shooting updates. A little bit more info here, the manifesto. And also, if I have time, in Cambridge, the city council just got rid of their shot spotters because they were racist. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Are you ready for the summer? It's almost Memorial Day weekend, which is the unofficial start of summer. And when I say, are you ready for summer? I know you're ready for warm weather and going out on the boat, but are your knees ready? Your hips ready? Ankle ready? Do you have some pain that's taking the fun out of summer? James Parker here for QC Kinetics. Look, if you miss wakeboarding because your back hurts, or if you miss skiing because your knee hurts, or if you missed going on a four-wheeler or jumping your dirt bike because of pain, maybe QC Kinetics can give you your full summer back. Give them a call, go in for the free consultation, and just find out what they can do, how long it would take, how much it costs, and then you have the full body of information to find out if you want to keep going through living life just, 70 to 80%. But if you want to go to 100%, go to QC Kinetics, get them to patch you up, and enjoy everything you can about the upcoming summer. All you got to do is start with the phone call and the free consultation. 972-972-8610. 972-972-8610. Can a microphone be racist? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. If that sounds like a long shot, you don't have to go for much of a long shot here. Ladies and gentlemen, we go up to the town of Cambridge. I'm not even sure what state this is. Maybe it's Massachusetts. I know there's other Cambridges. But this was being passed around, and I thought about playing this as like, is this real or is this the Babylon Bee? But now I'll go ahead and tell you, this is real. They had a city council meeting where they were debating on whether or not they should get rid of their shot spotter program. Do you know what shot spotter is? Everybody know what that is? A few years ago, some companies came up with technologies where you put some microphones across town, and if there's a gunshot and 3 of your microphones hear it, well, you can triangulate exactly where that gunshot came from. It can send a signal automatically to the police, and they respond. Because one of the problems with, shootings, especially in bad parts of the neighborhood, is you hear it so often the neighbors don't report it. The cops don't even know about it. They don't even go find like a dead body until the next day, or someone just shows up at the hospital like, hey, you're not going to look into this? So the spot shotter technology was amazing, because even in an apathetic neighborhood where no one wanted to cooperate with the cops can be alerted and go save lives. Now, it was primarily black and brown lives that were being saved. But if you look at it from the Team Blue point of view, there's also black and brown lives that were going to jail because they kept spraying bullets in the bad neighborhoods. And, well, that's bad. We can't have that now. So now you're going to hear some brown and black activists, but also the showing of the liberal white woman makes an appearance in this montage as well. How can ShotSpotter possibly be racist?
I do not consent for my vulnerable neighbors in our welcome community sanctuary city to be at risk.
And to make sure we hear from neighbors more directly impacted than I am, I will also be sharing from a Putnam Gardens resident. He's unable to be here, but feels that ShotSpotter surveillance puts him and his family at risk.
En la última audiencia, los residentes hablaron abrumadoramente en contra de ShotSpotter. ¿Saben por qué? Porque las familias...
And this puts black and brown communities in Cambridge in very real danger.
That BIPOC members of the Cambridge community are more likely to be recorded by ShotSpotter and thus are more vulnerable to potential abuses of the data and recordings collected by the company, as well as dangerous over-policing. Surveillance does not equal safety. We do not need microphones on top of buildings listening to every loud noise in the vicinity and sending in police in order to be safe.
That is crazy talk. Oh my God. So a program that is saving the lives of black and brown people is being jettisoned because the criminals who are taking the lives and causing the pain and the suffering and the injuries and the death also happen to be black and brown. That is so wild. It is more important that a black criminal escape justice than a black victim receive justice. Wow. That should just blow your mind. When you act like you care, but you institute a policy that leads to more pain and suffering and death, do you really care? And then here we are. Remember, 2 years ago, you were told about white rural rage. Isn't that hilarious? We're having so much shooting in non-white neighborhoods that they put up programs to help the police respond more quickly. And the programs are taken down because they're too effective at catching criminals who are non-white. And you were told to be worried about white rural rage. I mean, have you seen it yet? Was the San Diego shooting white rural rage? Was the Austin shooting spree, was that white rural rage? The shootings at the Dallas ICE facility, white rural rage. At Old Dominion, was that white rural rage? At the Michigan synagogue, was that white rural rage? When is this going to happen? When are we going to have one of these white rural rage shootings you're warned about?
White
rural rage. Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy?
I mean, we lay out the fourfold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose to the country. They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and anti-gay geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist group. Third, they're also the most strongly white nationalist and white Christian nationalist. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence as an acceptable alternative to peaceful public discourse.
So you mentioned a lot of negative factors about this demographic.
Yeah, just so many negative things about white rural people. What a bunch of dangerous loons. Well, look out for those guys. They wonder why they don't do good with rural white men. How about you just say one nice thing about us for 5 seconds on one show, one time? I'm not asking for like a history month. I'm not asking for an International Men's Day. How about just one time Mika Brzezinski defends us for 5 seconds? How about Mika Brzezinski looks at some notes here, white rural rage. Well, hang on. I'm checking the demographics here, and according to the facts on the ground here, that's actually the group of people that's least likely to commit violence. All right, stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. If you need more James Show action in the meantime, go check me out on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter X, and also the podcast. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.